Whoa.
Whoa.
Whoa, guys. Holy.
That means something that just was powerful enough that it reached multiple frequencies.
I mean, that just went straight across the entire screen.
Oh my God.
What began as a normal investigation takes a terrifying turn when Russell and Mireya discover a mysterious figure on the crest, sending them on a dangerous trip up a glacier in quest of answers. However, what they discover alters everything, demanding the team to flee immediately.
I don't know that anything was thrown at us, but I heard something over there.
Break through the trees, right?
Yeah.
Join us as we reveal the unbelievable discovery that has left even the most experienced explorers in shock. Mireya and Bryce are going east from base camp, eager to recover a plaster cast of what appears to be a Bigfoot footprint, which they discovered on the first day of their expedition. The potential significance of this discovery has them both intrigued and curious about what it may disclose. They had previously spoken with Dr. Bondar, who provided fascinating information about what they may expect if this place was indeed a Bigfoot breeding habitat. Dr. Bondar stated that stories of Bigfoot family units are quite unusual. In most situations, sightings involve individual creatures rather than groups. However, when multiple Bigfoot are observed together, it suggests a social structure where a dominant male likely leads the group, making the decisions about movement and, as in many primate species, taking on the most risk when venturing into new areas. This revelation added another element of mystery to their inquiry. If this is a breeding habitat, they may find more than one footprint, evidence of an entire group. The prospect of discovering something so uncommon drives their determination as they prepare to investigate the cast more attentively. With each stride, the enthusiasm grows. Mireya and Bryce are aware that if their suspicions are correct, they may have made one of the most significant discoveries in the field of cryptozoology.
They just saw that was unexpected right in front of them. I've had the opportunity to go to this location with the witness, Chuck.
One that could call into question what we know about the enigmatic Bigfoot. They're eager to share their results with the globe. It's fascinating because this could really explain why it's more common to find individual Bigfoot tracks rather than groups of them. When you are out in the field with gorillas, you will notice a similar pattern. Now let us see how this cast came out. When Mireya and Bryce display the plaster cast, they can't believe it. The detail is incredible, and they're certain it's a genuine Bigfoot print. The two are astounded and can't help but speculate. They talk about primate group dynamics, specifically how this track could belong to a single male Bigfoot scouting out a safe spot for his family to establish. It makes sense, right? The lone, enormous footprint could imply a man leading the charge. Meanwhile, Mireya and Ronnie have installed trail cameras high in the treetops, trying to find additional clues. Something left those footprints, causing the loud whistling they heard last night. But what? They know the region provides everything a large animal would require: food, shelter, and water, so they're hoping the cameras will reveal what's been leaving these enigmatic marks. The anticipation grows as they wait to see what, or who, will appear on the footage. The trail cameras captured some unusual and intriguing sightings. In one film, a creature with long hair darts across the frame, making the camera tremble. In another, a bipedal figure briefly walks in front of the camera, leaving the team with more questions than answers. As Ronnie and Mireya review the footage, they can't help but be baffled by what they're seeing. One particularly strange moment lasts only about 2 seconds, showing something that appears to have long hair running past the camera. The movement is quick, almost too fast to fully process, but the hair seems to flow in the direction of its movement, suggesting something unusual at play. They also discovered what appeared to be an animal strolling in one frame. What jumps out, however, is the creature's height. It was caught from a high angle above the earth, prompting more doubts. There is a strong sense that more investigation is required to determine exactly what they have documented.
They chose to call it the wood booger.
The wood booger was rumored to be a horrifying sight that was known to carry away small children who wandered off in the night.
Ronnie and Mireya analyzed the tracks they spotted earlier as the next focus shifts to footprint analysis. The tracks certainly belong to a large animal, but what kind of species made them remains unknown. They notice the trail cameras filmed an animal moving in and out of the picture, but its identity is unknown. As they discuss potential theories, Ronnie and Mireya consider whether the culprit could be a deer or a bear. However, they note that the creature in question seems taller than a deer and has hair longer than what's typical for a bear. While it's possible that a bear could have made the tracks, they both agree that something about the hair's texture and length feels different, hinting at the presence of an unusual creature. Finally, they conclude that they still don't know what caused the tracks or the strange whistling sound that accompanied them. Ronnie and Mireya are eager to solve the mystery and will continue their inquiry in the hopes that future evidence may offer more light on the elusive monster they have encountered. The video begins with a team prepping for a deep forest mission with a single aim in mind: to discover Bigfoot. They gather their equipment, tweaking thermal imaging drones, seismic sensors, and night vision cameras while strategizing for the coming days. As they finalize their preparations, they discuss disturbing news that has been circulating: a weird whistle heard in these forests, which some believe provokes violence in monsters like Bigfoot. The air is still and heavy with tension as the team readies themselves for whatever might come.
I'm walking through here and not doing much.
For something to have created an impression that deep, 21 inches,
That's big.
it had to.
Once their camp is set up in the midst of the forest, they are enveloped in an eerie silence. The gang notices how silent the woods have become, and a creeping sense of fear sets in. Suddenly, a piercing noise interrupts the silence. Someone has thrown something at them from the trees. The squad rushes to investigate, but discovers nothing. The forest appears to shut in on them, with the darkness obscuring whatever, or whoever, is watching. The unsettling feeling intensifies as they realize they are not alone. Determined to carry out their goal, the team uses drones equipped with thermal imaging cameras to search the dense forest. As the drones pass overhead, the cameras detect enormous heat signatures. Something is lurking in the treetops. The heat signatures are massive, far larger than any ordinary animal. But strangely, despite the team having carpeted the forest floor with seismic sensors, none of them are picking up any movement. It's as if whatever they're tracking is moving through the treetops, avoiding detection. The team's enthusiasm grows as they notice additional heat signatures, indicating they may be closing in on more than one monster. They move forward, following the trail of heat, but as swiftly as the figures appear, they vanish. The woodland becomes silent once more, with the exception of the occasional rustling leaf. The squad continues on, searching the trees and listening for any sounds that could disclose the animal's position. They believe Bigfoot is nearby, but the elusive creature remains just out of reach. The team's excitement builds as the drones survey the deep canopy of woods. In the heavy darkness of night, their gaze is drawn to the screen, where ephemeral activity draws their attention. Despite the shadows that obscure the details, they all share a sense of exhilaration that this could be it. The team believes they have finally secured film of Bigfoot, a big and enigmatic figure gliding silently through the trees. Despite the fuzzy sight, they experience a surge of triumph and prepare to launch another drone into the skies for a closer look. One of the crew members says, "Something's moving," but thermal imaging fails to detect any definite heat signature, adding to the mystery. Zone 3 is being searched, but the thermal camera shows nothing, creating more suspicions. Nonetheless, the squad perseveres. As the drone gets closer, more movement appears on the screen, an unmistakable hint that something is out there, just beyond their knowledge. Could this be the evidence they have been looking for? As this finding unfolds, we see Ronnie prepare for his night vigil in the woods. He is meticulous and cautious, checking his trail cameras and securing bear bells to alert him to approaching wildlife. There's a sense of unease in his voice, the tension building as he contemplates what the night might bring. He voices his conflicted feelings, half hoping for an encounter, half wishing to retreat from the unknown lurking in the wilderness. All the trail cams are in place, and the bear bells are ready. Everything's good to go, Ronnie mutters to himself, the chill in the air matching his unease. It's a suspenseful moment, as the weight of the unknown presses on him. He knows what could be out there, but does he really want to find it? Later, Ronnie sets out to see Josh, a man whose story is as unsettling as the night ahead. Josh sits down in a local pub to tell his story, which he has kept hidden for many years. Intrigued by Ronnie's inquiry, he offers to talk about the night that still haunts him. During a walk up a mountain, Josh sensed a weird pull towards the summit, an almost magnetic force that dragged him higher as the daylight faded into frightening darkness. Suddenly, everything went black. When Josh awoke, he was no longer alone. Rustling in the bushes drew his attention, and out of the shadows appeared a massive gray beast. Josh's heart raced as the creature locked eyes with him, hissing in a way that sent a wave of fear through his entire body. Paralyzed with terror, Josh stood frozen, face to face with the towering figure. The encounter was brief.
The video has not been heavily compressed to reduce or degrade the video. My personal opinion is that these events did transpire the way that they appear.
But the impact was profound. The hiss seemed like a warning, an aggressive sound that jolted Josh into motion. He turned and ran, his feet pounding against the trail as he fled from the mysterious being. To this day, he can't shake the memory of that encounter. Josh's story adds another layer of intrigue to the team's investigation. Could this gray creature be the same elusive being that the team captured on their drone? As the night progresses, Ronnie, Josh, and the rest of the team are left with more questions than answers. But one thing is clear: the search for Bigfoot is far from over. With each sighting and bizarre interaction, the legend of this creature grows stronger, motivating the crew to continue their hunt, regardless of the fear or danger that awaits. Josh describes his terrible meeting and the enormous bewilderment and anxiety that ensued. The cops found him bewildered, his mind cloudy, and unable to make sense of what had transpired. The officer, evidently surprised by Josh's state, saw something unusual. Josh's eyes appeared to lack color, a detail that rattled both the officer and Josh himself. When the officer's flashlight slipped from his hands and he reached for his gun, trembling, it became clear just how unsettling the situation was. This event left a lasting impact on Josh, who has since struggled to return to a normal state of mind. His recounting of the event paints a vivid picture of the confusion and terror he endured, the lingering effects of which continue to haunt him. Ronnie, hearing Josh's account, couldn't help but be disturbed. The idea that these beings could manipulate or influence the human mind gnawed at him. Could they truly have the ability to impair someone's judgment or alter their view of reality?
In 2010, a man claimed that a Bigfoot came to him while hunting in North Carolina, attracted by his coyote calls.
As the night in the woods grew darker and more secluded, Ronnie's thoughts became increasingly paranoid. The once reassuring tinkling of his bear bells, designed to keep predators at bay, had now just increased his worry. He began to question his own sanity, feeling more vulnerable and removed from reality. Every flutter of the wind or distant sound took on an ominous tone, heightening his anxiety. Despite this growing dread, Ronnie tried to anchor himself in the present, reminding himself of the trail cams they had set up earlier. The cameras would surely capture any movement in the area, offering some form of evidence if something, whether animal or otherwise, came near. But even this reassurance didn't completely ease his mind. As he prepared to sleep for the night, the uneasiness from Josh's story persisted. The woods, silent and vigilant, appeared to harbor an underlying threat, and Ronnie couldn't escape the suspicion that something was waiting in the shadows. The next morning, Ronnie and Bryce discovered a distressing scene, a fresh kill site deep in the woods. The odor of blood filled the air, assaulting their senses as they realized a large animal, possibly an elk or a black-tailed deer, had been killed by a predator. Broken bones were strewn around the scene, including a large rib that had been bitten through or snapped with enormous power. The size of the bones left little doubt in their minds that this was the work of a powerful creature. The grim discovery only deepened their sense of foreboding, reinforcing the eerie atmosphere of their expedition. Bryce and Ronnie found themselves in the midst of a gruesome scene deep in the woods. A large animal carcass. The stench of blood thickened the air. What drew their immediate attention was a massive bone, snapped clean in half. This wasn't the work of a typical predator. The break was deliberate, almost surgical, and they realized something powerful had either bitten through or snapped the bone. Analyzing the scene, they began to suspect that this kill was not the work of an ordinary animal, but perhaps something more significant.
John visited the cabin and, incredibly, found that there were hair samples left near the house. He collected the hairs.
Something tied to early human relatives. Russell and Bryce's discovery of obsidian shards a few days earlier began to factor into their theories. These stone fragments suggested the presence of early humans in the vicinity, as well as the likelihood that this predator had evolved to resemble something old, perhaps even human-like. Bryce and Ronnie hypothesized that the monster had absorbed the victim's bone marrow, which was similar to how prehistoric people sustained their developing brains. Marrow was an important nutrient, and its ingestion may have been critical for early hominid brain development, as Mireya once stated. This connection steered their investigation in an unexpected direction. Was the death site evidence of Bigfoot, a primitive human species still roaming the woods? As they pieced together the clues, the shattered bone, the shards of obsidian, and the thermal images captured by the drones, Bryce and Ronnie became increasingly convinced they were dealing with something far beyond a typical forest predator. The blood-soaked scene, the unnatural precision of the bone fracture, and the surrounding evidence painted a picture of a predator that wasn't just hunting for survival. It was part of a lineage tied to human evolution. Meanwhile, Russell and Mireya had traveled to the ice field, following the river's flow in search of additional proof. After a long trip, they arrived at the huge expanse, a chilly and dismal landscape. Despite the size of the ice field, they were confused. Despite Bryce's fixed-wing drone following something enormous moving in their way, there was no trace of a beast, no footprints or disturbed dirt. The absence of tracks defied sense. The immense, unspoiled ice field felt spooky, like a stage set for something far larger than they had anticipated. For Bryce and Ronnie, the discovery was enough to suggest they had stumbled upon definitive proof of Bigfoot's existence.
Who on a Tuesday night is a mile and a half into the woods running around with no flashlight?
They believed this could finally shed light on one of the greatest mysteries of the wild, the possibility of a human-like predator surviving into the present day. Russell and Mireya walked forward, their gaze locked on the ridge where they believed they spotted activity. The figure they glimpsed appeared to vanish just over the horizon, but they couldn't shake the feeling that something, perhaps the monster Bryce had seen on the drone, was up there. Curiosity and resolve propel them forward, even if the terrain becomes more hazardous as they approach the glacier ahead. The harsh terrain is merciless, and the cold bites at their skin as they ascend higher, aware that what they seek may be elusive and perilous. However, something about the sighting strengthens their resolve. They wonder what could be up there, but neither has a solid answer. As they reach the glacier, the majesty of the frozen expanse astounds them. It appears pristine and awe-inspiring, like an untouched world, yet it is also a hazardous habitat in which few organisms can thrive. Their instincts tell them that whatever they saw might be hiding among the snowy summits. The prospect of a creature existing in such a hard environment thrills them as they push through the snow, each step crunching underfoot. At the summit, the hunt becomes more intense. Russell and Mireya understand how impossible it would be to follow any living thing through the snow-covered countryside, but they remain hopeful that they will find something, anything, that will lead them closer to the truth. They decide to follow the path of the water trickling through the glacier, convinced that a creature might seek shelter or sustenance nearby. The glacier is vast, and every crevice holds the potential for discovery. As they search, they come upon a cave. It's large enough to be a shelter, and the dark interior beckons them to explore deeper.
Oh my word.
Oh!
That
It
is,
doesn't look like a person.
it does not look like a
It doesn't
person.
look like...
The air inside the cave is calm and frigid, making it possible for something to seek protection from the weather. The frost-covered walls and dark lighting create an unsettling mood. Russell and Mireya search every nook for indications of life. Tracks, fur, or anything that could support their suspicions. Despite their attempts, they discover nothing. Disappointment weighs on them, but they know the adventure is not done. They may not have discovered the beast this time, but the evidence and their instincts tell them it is out there, somewhere. The hunt will continue, along with their hopes of solving the enigma that haunts the glacier's frozen terrain. This discovery has raised more questions than answers, and our search is far from over. The search for the mysterious Bigfoot has captivated adventurers, researchers, and the public for decades. Stories of a large human-like creature lurking in the dense forests of North America have become part of folklore, but very few expeditions have claimed to come as close to finding the truth as the team from the show Expedition Bigfoot. Their quest to track and document the existence of Bigfoot.
Yeah, something definitely moving around in there.
What is that?
This place.
Right. What is that? What is that? Look up there. Look at the ridge.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, right here. You see it?
Reached a dramatic climax when they were forced to shut down their operation after making a terrifying and unexpected discovery. A new frontier for Bigfoot exploration. Bigfoot was not an ordinary exploration effort. Unlike many previous attempts to find definitive evidence of the creature, this team combined the latest in scientific and technological methods. They went on an ambitious mission to search a remote area using data algorithms to predict Bigfoot's movements. The strategy was cutting edge, integrating both traditional search methods with advanced tracking technologies. From the outset, the team's approach showed promise. They carefully selected a region that had reported multiple sightings and unusual activity that matched Bigfoot's presumed behaviors. Armed with drones, thermal cameras, and audio recording devices, the team intended to leave no stone unturned in their search for the mysterious creature. Early in the expedition, the team maintained a sense of optimism despite not having immediate success. They knew that patience would be key in an area so vast and wild. Days passed without any significant discoveries, and it seemed like Bigfoot might continue to elude them. However, the calm would not last long. As they went deeper into the forest, something unexpected occurred that would forever change the course of their journey.
Something that just was powerful enough that it reached multiple frequencies.
I mean, that just went straight across the entire screen.
Yeah, something definitely moving around in there.
What is that?
Holy look at that.
Unsettling discoveries in the wilderness. The turning point came when the team's high-tech equipment detected unexpected movement in a remote part of the forest. This movement was the first major signal that they might be close to finding something extraordinary. Excitement quickly turned into fear as they uncovered a series of disturbing discoveries. The first significant find was a grim one: scattered bones and flesh, seemingly the remains of a violent encounter.
A fresh kill right in front of us. The entire area is soaked in blood.
What the hell is this?
This was not an ordinary animal kill. The bones were not arranged in the way one might expect from a predator's feast. Instead, the scene suggested something more brutal and terrifying. Whatever had caused this carnage was not an ordinary predator. The team's experience in the wilderness told them that this was not the work of wolves or bears. Shortly after this, they discovered a massive handprint in the mud.
The hand, oh my God.
You see that?
Those fingers look long as hell, dude.
Oh yeah, look at that.
It was at least twice the size of my hand, maybe bigger.
This handprint was not human, yet it wasn't entirely animal either. It was larger than any human hand they had seen, with strange proportions that defied classification. This handprint was the clearest evidence yet that they were not alone in the forest. It was not a mere coincidence that this handprint was found near the scene of the violent event. For the team, this was the most solid proof they had encountered so far that Bigfoot, or some unknown creature, was real. Russell and Mireya, two of the leading experts on the team, were particularly struck by the implications of this find. They knew that this was no small discovery. The handprint and the bloodbath were not just clues, they were evidence that whatever creature they were chasing was large, powerful, and possibly very dangerous. Rising tension and new findings. As the team began to piece together the evidence, the tension within the group grew. They were not just conducting an ordinary search anymore. They were tracking a creature that seemed to possess intelligence, strength, and the ability to evade detection. The realization that there might be more than one creature also added to their growing sense of unease. One of the more chilling discoveries came when they identified multiple sets of footprints in the area. This suggested that the creature they were tracking might not be alone. Could there be a family of these creatures living in the wilderness? The possibility of multiple creatures raised the stakes of their expedition and made the situation even more dangerous.
These creatures are coming down from the north, following the food source and raising their young right here.
It would be the right time of year for a creature to migrate to an area like this. Migration is something that ensures an animal has all of the natural resources that it needs, not only for its own survival, but for the survival of their young.
With this new information in hand, the team shifted their focus. They assumed that the creatures might be using the nearby river as a path to move through the wilderness. This theory made sense. The river provided an easy route for travel and access to food and water. The team decided to focus their search along the riverbanks, hoping to find more evidence of the creature's movements.
There's no doubt in my mind, we have at least 2 Bigfoot moving through this area. And with these different sizes, to me, this could be a male and its son, a female and daughter, male, female.
To aid their search, they deployed drones equipped with thermal cameras. These drones allowed them to scan large areas from above, providing a broader view of the dense forest.
I'm starting to wonder if this could perhaps be a male and a female counterpart moving along this route. Which, if that's the case, if this is a male and a female, then that means family.
It was during one of these drone sweeps that they detected a vaguely humanoid figure moving through the trees. The team's excitement grew. This could be the moment they had been waiting for. However, the figure disappeared before they could get a clear visual confirmation. The forest's density and the darkness made it nearly impossible to track the movement further. Despite this setback, the team remained determined to find the creature. Every sound in the forest, every rustle of the leaves, heightened their senses and their sense of anticipation. A close encounter, fear, and determination. As the night wore on, the team's resolve was put to the test. Ronnie, one of the lead investigators, was exploring one side of the valley when he heard snapping branches and other unsettling sounds. Something large was moving through the trees, but the darkness masked his vision. At the same time, Bryce, who was operating a drone, detected heat signatures in the area where Ronnie was investigating. The images captured by the drone were unclear, but they showed enough movement to suggest that something significant was nearby. Bryce quickly joined Ronnie on the ground, and together they followed the trail deeper into the forest. What they found next would cement their belief that they were dealing with something far more dangerous than they had initially imagined.
Right in front of us. The entire area is soaked in blood.
Whoa. Is that a rib?
2 ribs, 3 ribs. I would have to think the size of this rib bone that this is like an elk or the black-tailed deer that's the Sitka blacktail.
Yeah. Man, this stinks.
As they followed the trail, they came across a fresh kill, an animal that had been violently attacked. The ground was soaked with blood, and the bones were scattered in a way that suggested a powerful predator had been at work. The size of the footprints around the kill site, combined with the large stride lengths, indicated that the creature responsible was massive. Despite the horror of the scene, the team remained focused on their goal. They knew they were getting closer to finding the creature, and their determination outweighed their fear. This was not just about proving the existence of Bigfoot anymore. It was about understanding the behavior of a creature that seemed to exhibit both animal instincts and human-like intelligence. The hybrid theory, a new understanding of Bigfoot. As the team gathered more evidence, a new theory began to take shape. The creature they were tracking was not just a wild animal, it might be something more. The team found tools made of volcanic glass in nearby caves, which suggested that the creatures were using tools to cut flesh, similar to early humans.
What is it?
Holy that's not glass, that's obsidian. Now the miners wouldn't need obsidian. They had metal tools to use. Who would need obsidian in this space?
This finding, combined with the large footprints and the brutal scenes of carnage, led the team to develop a hybrid theory. The hybrid theory suggested that Bigfoot might be a creature that bridges the gap between animals and humans.
Something brought this material in to use that has to have opposable thumbs. And I can only think of one thing besides man that would have used this.
It was not just an animal living in the wild. It was a being with human-like intelligence, capable of using tools and exhibiting complex behaviors. This theory aligned with the evidence they had found,
suggesting that he was using it as a cutting tool. Bigfoot may just be a type of early, primitive human species.
For the team, this was both exciting and terrifying. If Bigfoot was a hybrid creature, it would mean that they were dealing with something far more advanced than they had initially thought. This also raised ethical questions about their search. Should they continue to pursue these creatures, or should they leave them in peace? Were they interfering with a species that had deliberately chosen to remain hidden from human society? The hybrid theory added a new layer of complexity to their mission. They were no longer just searching for a mythical creature. They were trying to understand a being that might share characteristics with early humans. This realization deepened their appreciation for the creatures and made them question the ethical implications of their expedition. The decision to shut down the expedition. Despite the promising leads and the mounting evidence, the team's journey was cut short. The discoveries they had made were enough to convince them that they were on the right track. However, the dangers they faced became too great to ignore. The creature, or creatures they were tracking, seemed to be highly intelligent and potentially aggressive. The decision to shut down the expedition came after a series of intense discussions among the team. They had gone deep into the wilderness, found compelling evidence, and come closer to Bigfoot than anyone had before. But they also realized that continuing the search could put their lives at risk. They were dealing with a creature that had already shown signs of aggression, and the team was not equipped to handle a direct confrontation. Moreover, the ethical concerns about disturbing an intelligent species weighed heavily on their minds. If Bigfoot was indeed a hybrid creature with human-like intelligence, the team needed to consider whether it was right to continue their pursuit. Were they interfering with a species that had deliberately remained hidden for centuries? Were they putting the creatures at risk by exposing their existence to the world? These questions ultimately led to the decision to shut down the expedition. While they had not found the definitive proof they were searching for, the evidence they gathered was enough to suggest that Bigfoot might be more than just a legend. The handprints, the footprints, the tools, and the audio recordings all pointed to the existence of a highly intelligent, possibly dangerous species living in the remote wilderness. The audio evidence, a new breakthrough. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence gathered during the expedition came after the team had returned home. Bryce, who had stayed behind to review the data they collected, made a shocking discovery while analyzing the audio recordings from their time in the forest. The recordings, captured during the dead of night, contained sounds that were unlike anything they had heard before.
To find something that really captured my attention. Take a listen to this. You hear that? I think that's a Bigfoot speaking.
At first, the recordings seemed like normal forest sounds, rustling leaves, distant animal calls. But as Bryce listened more closely, he realized that there was something more. A deep, indistinct voice could be heard in the background. It wasn't human, but it wasn't entirely animal either. The voice was low and guttural, almost as if it was attempting to communicate. Fascinated by this discovery, Bryce enhanced the audio and reached out to Dr. Ronald Cosper, a linguist with expertise in rare and complex languages. Dr. Cosper had previously studied vocalizations attributed to Bigfoot and was eager to analyze the new recordings. After reviewing the audio, Dr. Cosper concluded that the voice was distinctly human-like, but with certain characteristics that suggested it belonged to a different species.
It sounded quite hominid to me. In other words, either humans or near human.
Wow.
And I was able to hear the sounds and know where they were articulated in the mouth.
The most surprising aspect of the recording was that it seemed to contain two separate voices. This discovery further supported the team's theory that they were dealing with multiple creatures, possibly a family or a community of Bigfoots. Dr. Cosper noted that the voices appeared to be communicating with one another, using sounds that resembled words.
Gotcha. Was there anything that you discerned as possible words?
Well, I heard something like, "Ways flat kumba."
Interesting.
This finding was groundbreaking. If the creatures were capable of communication, it would mean that they had developed a complex social structure. This raised even more questions about the nature of the creatures and their relationship to humans. Could they be distant relatives of early humans? Were they capable of forming communities, using tools, and surviving in some of the most remote areas on Earth? The audio recordings added a new layer of mystery to the expedition's findings.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we can only guess at it, but we were tracking something, and then we get these audio files.
What did you think you were following? Was it two individuals, or?
Did you pick up more than one creature, Ron?
Yes.
Really?
I thought the final utterance was said by a different individual than the first part of it.
Ethical dilemmas. Should Bigfoot remain undiscovered? One of the most significant takeaways from the Expedition Bigfoot team's journey was the ethical dilemma they encountered during the expedition. This wasn't merely a question of safety. It was a philosophical question about the role of human intervention in the natural world. The discovery of a possible hybrid creature that exhibited both human-like and animalistic behaviors raised profound questions about how much the team should interfere. In cryptozoological studies, most creatures like Bigfoot are seen as legends or myths, and expeditions often operate with the belief that these creatures either don't exist or are too mysterious to be caught. However, in this case, the expedition Bigfoot team found themselves on the edge of discovering a new species. This put them in an ethical quandary. Should they expose this creature to the wider world, potentially disrupting its natural habitat and way of life, or should they let it remain hidden, undisturbed by human interference? The importance of this question cannot be overstated. In human history, the discovery of new species, particularly those with intelligent behaviors, has often led to their exploitation, either for scientific research or more nefarious purposes. The expedition team had to consider whether they would be doing more harm than good by revealing the existence of these creatures. Would humans seek to capture or study these creatures, disrupting their ecosystem and potentially endangering their survival? These concerns were not lost on the team. During their time in the forest, they began to realize that they were not just dealing with animals. The evidence of multiple creatures moving together further suggested that these creatures might live in family groups or communities, a discovery that would place them closer to early humans in behavior and social organization. The ethical dilemma then becomes, is it right to expose a potentially intelligent species to the wider world, knowing the potential consequences? This moral debate added another layer to the already complex situation the team found themselves in. On one hand, proving Bigfoot's existence would be one of the greatest scientific discoveries of the modern era, potentially rewriting our understanding of evolution and human ancestry. On the other hand, the risks to the creatures and their ecosystem might outweigh the benefits of such a discovery. The impact on the scientific community. Bigfoot findings, while still inconclusive, have sparked a wave of interest and debate in the scientific community. Cryptozoology, the study of creatures whose existence has yet to be proven, has long been regarded as a fringe science. Many mainstream scientists dismiss the idea of creatures like Bigfoot, Loch Ness, or the Chupacabra as nothing more than folklore, without substantial evidence to back up their claims. However, the data collected during this expedition has challenged this view. The physical evidence, particularly the handprint, the footprints, and the tools found in the caves, suggest that something very real is lurking in the forests. These findings are hard to ignore, even for skeptics. The team's use of advanced technology such as thermal cameras, audio devices, and drones lent credibility to their search, making the case for Bigfoot's existence more scientifically valid than ever before. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence to come from the expedition was the audio recordings. Sound can provide invaluable clues when tracking mysterious creatures, and in this case, the deep guttural voices picked up by the team were unlike any known animals in the area. When Dr. Cosper, the linguist who specialized in rare languages, analyzed the audio, he found that the voices exhibited traits of structured communication, further supporting the idea that these creatures were intelligent and capable of interaction. These findings challenged the broader scientific community to reevaluate their understanding of what might be lurking in the unexplored parts of the world. Cryptozoology, while often dismissed, has long argued that the discovery of new species, particularly those that resemble humans, could be one of the most important breakthroughs in biological science. The expedition's findings suggest that there is still much to learn from the unexplored regions of the world, and that creatures like Bigfoot, if they exist, might hold the key to unlocking mysteries about human evolution and the natural world. Skeptics, of course, remain unconvinced. Many argue that the evidence is still circumstantial and that no concrete proof has been found to definitively prove the existence of Bigfoot. They point out that while the footprints, handprints, and audio are compelling, they do not constitute direct evidence. For many in the scientific community, only the physical capture or observation of a live specimen will suffice as proof. However, these same skeptics acknowledge that the evidence gathered by the expedition Bigfoot team is some of the most credible ever presented in support of the creature's existence. The search for Bigfoot has been one of the most enduring mysteries of the modern era. Despite the skepticism surrounding its existence, the possibility that such a creature could be living in the remote forests of North America has captivated the imagination of people around the world. The expedition. Bigfoot team's recent journey has added new evidence to the debate, suggesting that Bigfoot might be more than just a myth. The discoveries made during the expedition, whether this creature is Bigfoot or another unknown species, the evidence suggests that it is intelligent, powerful, and capable of evading human detection. As technology continues to improve and researchers become more sophisticated in their methods, the search for Bigfoot is likely to intensify. New expeditions will undoubtedly be launched, and with each new discovery, we come closer to understanding whether Bigfoot is real. However, the ethical questions surrounding the search for an intelligent species will also need to be addressed. Whether Bigfoot will ever be found remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: the legend of Bigfoot will continue to endure, inspiring future generations to explore the unexplored and seek answers to the mysteries of the natural world.